Hello, everyone, and welcome to another special edition of the iWorkinSport live interview. My name is João Fugerio. I'm the founder of iWorkinSport. And again, thank you for being with us today. Don't be shy. If you're watching it right now, say hello. Let us know where you're watching from, and prepare to send your questions as usual. Normally, the best questions come from you. And would appreciate it if you are prepared for that and participate and interact as always. So as you know, we just saw a clip at the beginning. In less than 2 weeks' time, we're gonna host our second edition of the iWorkinSport Education Virtual Expo that will go from the 10th to the 12th of November. And yeah, that's a digital event, 100% online, that is made for anyone interested in either starting a career in sport, or even if you're already work in sport and is interested in perhaps boosting your career through education, you should check it out. If you're considering maybe taking a master or an executive program in sports management, that event is for you. It is 100% free to attend. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description. You can go there and yeah, subscribe through that or register to attend there. At the event, just to explain you a bit better, so you will have the chance to connect in real time and interact with the course representatives and alumni of some of the best programs in the world. And well, you get the chance to get all the information that you want about it in one-to-one conversations. Today, we're going to do that with the FIFA Masters, with Kevin, who's in the background. I'll call him right away. But there, you'll be able to actually interact live with representatives from all courses. Now, to help you prepare for the event, we created this brand new series that we called Meet the Programs, in which we're featuring some of the institutions that will be participating in the Virtual Expo. So just as a recap, on Monday, we had the Johan Cruyff Institute. On Tuesday, we talked to the European Sport Business School, the ESPS from Valencia. Yesterday, we talked with the University of Oregon, with Christina Cornwell. We also talked a little about sponsorship and her book, but we mentioned that there will be at the event too. So all of those, if you want to check those videos later, just go to our YouTube channel or our channel on LinkedIn. And today, I'm super happy because I'll be interviewing a very good friend of mine and unofficial mentor, as I can say, because he helped me a lot when I did the FIFA Masters some 15 years ago, Kevin Tallec Marston. Before we go to Kevin, if you're interested in this type of content, in career in sport or education, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that bell icon as well to get the notifications so you know when the next videos are coming. And well, if you're LinkedIn, you can maybe subscribe later. And while you're at it, if you can hit that like button, that will be super appreciated as well. As a reminder, again, leave your questions, be prepared to participate, to comment, to interact. If you're watching the replay, Also, leave your comments there. That will help the representatives of the course to prepare for the event. So if they understand that you have a particular question, I guess this is it in terms of presenting the show. To talk about the FIFA Master, it's a great pleasure to invite a good friend, Dr. Kevin Tallec Marston, academic project manager at CIES, and I can say a FIFA Master legend. Kevin, I will bring you in right now, and I will let you maybe introduce yourself a little better. But welcome to the show.
Thank you, João. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you, Kevin. So I think to start, before we actually start talking about the FIFA Master, maybe you can talk a little about yourself, about your journey. You did the course as well. You're an alumnus of the course. So tell us how you, tell us a little about your journey. I think many people will relate with that.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, João. So my journey, I would say, to this world of international sports education started many years ago. I did my undergraduate bachelor's degree at the College of William & Mary in the United States, and at that time was very involved in sport. I was already coaching, and shortly thereafter started working very much as a coach, teacher, and club administrator in sports at a sports center. And at the same time, those were the early years of Major League Soccer, MLS, at the time. And so I spent quite a lot of my free time, evening, weekends, summers, etc., working in the event and operations world, in the logistics world of early MLS. It was a different beast at that time, working on all sorts of events, match day operations, and even working CONCACAF World Cup qualifying matches, all sorts of things. And it ended up a couple of years later discovering this new, at the time, very new program, the FIFA Master course. In 2001, 2002 is when I heard about it. And then I applied. I was very fortunate enough to be accepted onto the program. Had an incredible experience. It was a wonderful year. And since then, I embarked on, let's say, a slightly different trajectory than probably most people that come out of the program, which is into academia. So I went on and did a PhD in history and have continued to do research on sports governance. I did a sports law certificate just about 2 years ago to kind of polish up on that. So that's my general personal journey to the course. And I've been working with the FIFA Master program essentially since 2004.
Great, Kevin. So before I'm going to ask you to give us an overview of the Masters. Before we do that, let's just shout out to the people that are watching and saying hi from all over the world. We have Wang Shuai from China, Yuri Dominguez, hello Yuri, from São Paulo in Brazil, Iñaki, who's collaborating with us as well. Hello Iñaki from Spain. Some familiar faces here. Serge, who just moved to Cairo, starting a new job at the CAF in Egypt. Congratulations.
And Diana from Leicester.
From Leicester, one of the current students of the FIFA Master. We have Noah from Germany. There's now Sonia Ramirez from Colombia, also helping us, doing a great job. Thank you, Sonia. Well, there's more names coming in, so I'm gonna go a bit quicker on that. Miguel from Ecuador, thanks. Oh, Marcelo from Switzerland. Himanshu from India. Masi Henry from Paris, France. Well, it's getting too fast here, so I'm not going to be able to show everyone on screen. But there's Pia from Malaysia, Ross from Israel. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And prepare to participate. Send your questions to Kevin. Anything that you'd like to know about the FIFA Master. So, Kevin, going then to the FIFA Master. Can you maybe give us, before we start with some specific questions, give us an overview of the course for those that are not really familiar with that?
With pleasure. Maybe what we can do is show the short clip just to give a brief overview of the course, and then I'll explain a little bit more how the program works. Thank
you. Here goes. There's a 40-second clip here.
The FIFA Master takes its graduates on a unique journey to some of the most sport-oriented European countries in 3 distinguished universities that have come together to provide a one-year program combining top-class academic teaching and practical case studies supplemented by guest lecturers and field visits. Demonstrates the impact that the FIFA Master has in becoming a global leader in sports management education.
It is certainly the best training for the future life.
All right. Tell us a little about the course, please.
So the course is an international master's program that's jointly taught by 3 universities around the world. They're based in Europe, in the United Kingdom, in Switzerland, and in Italy, with 3 wonderful partners. And we have every year a group of 28 to 32 students approximately who travel through these 3 countries, live in each country for 3 months, and benefit from an incredible mix of academic lectures, of field visits. We take them on site to all sorts of clubs, organizations, international federations, events. Whether you saw some of the images of Wimbledon, Manchester City, going to the FIFA headquarters, of course, many other places, the IOC. So there is a mix of top-level academic theory, lectures, classes, workshops, seminars, discussions, research, and also a wonderful mix. We benefit from a great number of industry experts who come from all sorts of clubs, organizations, from around the sports industry. And I say around the world because we have a lot more and more every year. In fact, people who come and speak and bring their industries, like whether it's in South America, in Asia, in South America, in the Caribbean. And so the students go on this journey of 10 months. And at the end, you get a diploma that is signed by 3 distinguished universities. And that opens the door, obviously, to the post-course experience, which is entering the alumni world, the world of the sports industry. Many candidates, and we'll probably talk about that in a little bit later on, but many of the candidates already have experience working in the sports sector before coming to us. But most people will then go on to incredible, and I can say incredible careers in the sports industry. Over the last 20 years, we've seen some fantastic people come through our doors.
Definitely, yes. Some 20 years already surpassed of the course, and the FIFA Master was one of the pioneers on that space. But now it's a very competitive space. There's all sorts of courses there. And of course, also with internet allowing online courses too, there are many programs appearing in that space. Then, what would you say are, the things that most attract people to apply to the course, or the biggest differentiation of the FIFA Master compared to others?
Sure. Well, I think our course certainly has somewhat of a unique living life experience in the sense many courses include study abroad sections, whether you go to another country for a little bit. But here it is one group of people who live together, study together, play sports together, and travel through 3 different countries over the course of 10 months, a very intense 10 months. I think the life experience, the human experience is quite unique in that sense. Compared to many other programs where students come to a campus and they stay there for an entire academic year or a year and a half. Here, the experience of moving and experiencing the world and education while you move is it's a challenging experience. And you went through a program yourself. Moving essentially 3 times in the course of 10 months is quite intense. But I think the benefits also of being in a classroom setting with people who come literally from all over the world. Every year we have such a wonderful mix of international profiles, people with multiple. The number of passports that we have in the classroom is just ridiculous. every year. And so it creates a very vibrant and open environment in which people can really exchange and talk and share ideas. And the mixing between the people, just the students themselves, is an education in itself, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. Just also shout outs to Jamila from Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, we mentioned Pia, who's also an alumna of the course. There's Guilherme Fernandes from Brazil. Igor supporting us as well here at iWorkinSport. Hello, Igor. Emeka from Johannesburg. Renato from Rio. There is Gerardo Molina, CEO of Euroméricas, saying hi. Who else is there? Joshua from Lancaster. We have Begowork from Ethiopia. And Kumar was here yesterday as well from Nepal. So we're speaking to pretty much the whole world. That's
to Ethiopia. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, so definitely. Let's get into some of these specifics. And again, if anyone have already sort of some specific questions, you can ask, and maybe I'll wait a little to ask your question, but please send them in. Kevin, about specifics, some courses that participated here this week, they, for some of the programs, would require a bachelor's degree. For others, they don't. Can you tell us a little a bit more about sort of requirements? Does someone need a bachelor degree to do the FIFA Master, and if so, in what specific area?
Sure. The entry requirements are quite simple. You do need a bachelor's degree. That's a first level university degree, depending on the country and where you come from. In some cases, that's a 3-year course, 4-year course. Generally, it's a 3 or 4 year degree, depending on where you are. And after you've done a first level bachelor's degree or equivalent, then you have the academic kind of credentials in order to be eligible to apply. We don't require a specific discipline, because I think we've seen actually over 20 years the richness that creates of having such a diverse group of people coming from all different backgrounds, whether it's academic and professional. One interesting trend I would say that we've seen in the last couple of years is the rise of more and more people doing a sports management BA. So there are a lot more people who apply to the program who actually have studied sports management at their bachelor's degree. I don't know if that's, whether or not that's necessarily a prerequisite. No, because we generally have people coming from legal backgrounds, from communication and media studies, from the humanities and social sciences. We obviously have a core, probably 25% of applicants have a business management background of some kind, but the rest is very, very broad. And I think that actually adds to the experience in the class. It makes a much more heterogeneous class environment.
Cool. What about then, if a bachelor is required, what about work experience? Himanshu Arora actually is asking if experience in football is required.
Himanshu, that's a good question. Thank you for highlighting that, because yes, the course is called the FIFA Master, which then obviously makes you think of football. However, the course is far from being 100% focused on football. It is an international master in management law and humanities of sport. So sport is broad. We have courses on rugby, on cricket, on paddle, we've talked about in class. So all sorts of sports.
Irish sports.
Covered. Irish sports, GAA, for those of you who are interested in Irish, motorsport, badminton. All sports have really have their place in the FIFA Master curriculum. So you do not need experience in football beforehand. What we do look for, however, is really a strong experience in sport. So every candidate who is applying, we really expect you to have an obvious connection to the sports world. And that means having worked in it, having been at least a volunteer in your sports organizations, clubs, been in the sports administration side, the technical side, the event side. We see more and more people who are being involved in organizing events even on a global level, and then coming to apply to our program a year or two later. But that was the the question on football experience. Your question, Joao, was
what was more broad, actually. So
yes,
about needing work experience to participate in that.
That's right. There's a formal requirement in order to be eligible, which is that you have to have some experience. Now that's let's say a subjective criteria, in the sense that people who apply to the course, we will look at, once you finish your BA, we will look at you, whether you have 6 months internship working for the Australian Open, or you have 15 years working in a consultancy. We'll look at both of those application files. We do certainly encourage that people coming out of university get some experience, because it's very beneficial for the experience being on the course. You get a lot more out of the program if you've had a year or 2 years, let's say, working. Now that doesn't mean that you'd be excluded in terms of eligibility criteria. And we have had some students come on the course as young as 22 years old. Last year we had a wonderful one of the very youngest students ever, who had already, as a student athlete, done quite a lot of work in the sports industry. So even coming into the course, having graduated only a few months before, she had a tremendous amount of experience in the event world. So what's important is to demonstrate that link, that experience to sport, and finish your bachelor's degree. Absolutely. I see there's a whole host of other questions.
There is. So I may get a little lost here. So I'm going to try to keep on the admissions part at the moment.
Sure.
There's already some people asking questions about job placements. I think we're going to get to that more to the end, so don't go anywhere. I think it's this one from Shamsher Q. What is the exact selection process for the FIFA Master? Then walk us through that. If you're someone that is interested now, can they go and apply now? Is that open now? Is it it's open the whole year? What's the process like?
Thank you, Shamsha. The process basically begins in the fall every year. We have our online application process. I stress that it's an online process now, where the platform will open generally at the beginning of October. It stays open until early January, and you have about a little over 3 months or so, 3-4 months to apply. Once the application platform closes in January, then we go into various phases of selection, where the application, all the application files are reviewed multiple times at multiple levels through a selection committee, then passes through our scientific committee, at which point we try and shortlist a number of candidates for an interview. And at that point, those interviews usually take place the first 2 weeks of March every year. For some of you who are watching and have applied to the course, there's a very intense interview that we do on Skype, and we discuss kind of your motivations, your background, what it is that you bring to the program, what your personal project is for after graduation, what you can contribute to the FIFA Master community. And after the interview process in March, then we make offers to about 30 some candidates in April and May. And so everyone essentially knows what your status is on the course in terms of being accepted by, I would say, the end of April, end of May. And the course begins in September.
Great. Thank you for that, Kevin. Still on that topic of admissions, any scholarship opportunities, asks
the Browork. Thank you for the question. Yeah, we do have a number of scholarships. We have, I would hesitate to qualify them in terms of numbers, because generally what we do is we try and break them up and help as many students as possible. Fortunately, the last 2-3 years, we've been able to help half or more than half of students with some amount of financial aid, because we recognize that the costs of the course, so that's one thing we haven't mentioned yet, Joao, is the course fees for the program are 25,000 Swiss francs, which certainly represents a significant sum of money for some people around the world, for many people around the world, I should say. And we do have a number of scholarship opportunities that are mostly open to everyone. We have 2 general course fee scholarships that cover just the course fees, so not living expenses, but that would waive your course fees or a part of those course fees. We also have scholarships that are specific to African nationals, so that's anyone with an African passport who would signal that on your application that you're applying to be eligible for one of the African scholarships, and those generally cover course fees plus a certain portion of the living expenses as well, in order to try and help people to come onto the course. We also have 2 scholarships, full scholarships, course fees and living expenses for graduates of the CIES FIFA International University Network, which is one of our additional programs that we run all the way around the world with over 16, 17 universities on four different continents, if my math is correct. And those students who do the executive program under one of the CIES university courses are eligible for one of these specific scholarships to come to the FIFA Master program. We've benefited in the past from other scholarship opportunities that have come and gone. We had the last 2 years, we had a wonderful support from the AFC, the Asian Football Confederation, that supported 4 and 5 candidates on the program. And we're certainly exploring continuously developing more and more scholarship opportunities for students, because we recognize that's very, very important. But I'm pleased to say that at this point, we are able to help about half of the students with some form of financial aid, because we know that is a very important thing. It's something we've seen over the years in the application process. We have 2/3 of the candidates from around the world asking for some financial aid. So we know that's very, very important.
Right. And Kevin, sport is traditionally very male-oriented. And how is the intake of women in the course?
Well, I'm very pleased to say this year we actually have a class which is more women than men. And we have 13 women in the class and 12 men this year that are in Leicester currently. I was actually teaching them just on Monday and Tuesday of this week. So we've had a wonderful increase in the number of women applying over the last 20 years, which was not as high as it was certainly in the first few years. It was a small number, and progressively over the last 10, 15 years, we've seen a great increase to the point where we almost had a class that was majority women. I think it was three years ago, almost. And then at the end, we had one person who dropped out, 2 people dropped out, and that changed the numbers. But we're very proud to say that we draw great applicants, both men and women, and it makes for a fantastic selection process, a difficult selection process. But it means that we have a very well balanced classroom. Which I think is a strength, because as I look at other programs listed in international rankings or on their websites, and not every program has such a balanced environment. We've regularly been in the, let's say, 60 to 40, 55-45 range for the last few years, and this year now we're 53% women and 47% men. So I think that's promising, very promising.
Cool. Thank you for clarifying that. There's many questions coming. Please keep them coming. I'm going to try to to get to the most or almost as many as I can, really. But here, let us touch on how the FIFA Master is handling or tackling the COVID-19 challenges. Jamila Mohammed asks, how is the program navigating during this time in regards to having participants come together for a 10-month period?
Well, thank you, Jamila. The COVID, obviously, situation is affecting everyone around the world. We're very fortunate in the sense that we've been able to start the program this year normally with a initial quarantine period for all of our students. All of our students are currently in Leicester on the campus. And we've been able to create a sort of bubble thanks to our wonderful colleagues and partners with De Montfort University, who have managed to organize that with a big classroom, so everyone is spaced out. Everyone is masked, and we have our teachers in class, except those of whom who actually have to teach by virtually through Zoom or other mechanisms. But we're very fortunate for the moment. We're able to actually continue our program essentially, let's say, as normal, with all the content. Most of the teaching and lectures are the same as normal, with some changes. Obviously, there are more issues with visiting organizations this year. A lot of organizations, we've seen that, we saw that in the spring as well, are closed to outside visitors. So we've been fortunate that some clubs and organizations have been willing to welcome our students already, either on outside tours. So the class was able to visit the Olympic Park in London a couple of weeks ago. They had, instead of having an on-site visit with Manchester United, which was not possible this year, we still had a wonderful set of sessions with a number of their senior executives and staff. So we're still able to maintain those great connections with the sporting industry, even if it's a little bit different at the moment. We certainly are waiting when all of this situation will clear up and we can return to some sense of normality.
Great, Kevin. So when you talked about the AFC scholarship, just so you know, you also answered the question from Shamsher. It was asking.
Just to clarify, the AFC scholarship this year is not being offered. We're kind of in a pause for this year. So if you're applying this year, that scholarship is not currently on the table. We hope that we'll be able to extend our scholarships again in the future. But just to clarify that there is not a specific AFC program for this year.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Well, that's why I say that the questions coming in are better than mine. So I'm actually going to go to more of those, Kevin, if you don't mind.
Let's do it.
So
absolutely,
let's try to go over those quick. So Guilherme Fernandez, does it require any international language certification to apply, like TOEFL?
Absolutely, we require any non-English speaker, native English speaker, let's say, or someone who hasn't done all of their university studies, high school studies, or works in English, to provide an English certification. TOEFL is certainly well accepted to English.
Let's do an answer also in the same answer, Nicolas, because he has a Cambridge exam. Is that valid as well?
Yeah, we also will recognize the Cambridge, also the IELTS English exam. So there are a number of different English courses and English certifications around the world. All of the main three, let's say, the Cambridge, the TOEFL, and the IELTS, are certainly accepted. We have minimum criteria for each one of those. It's different based on the way the scoring system is, but all that information is available on the website.
Great, Kevin. Jose Martucci, hello from Ecuador. Could I apply to the FIFA Master if I already had studied an MBA in sports management?
Thank you, Jose. Provided, I assume, if you've done an MBA, that means you've already done your bachelor's degree. So you would certainly be eligible on the basis of your bachelor's degree. The MBA itself will not be your ticket in terms of eligibility. It's really your first university degree that will make you eligible to apply to the program. However, it's exciting to see that you've done an MBA in sports already, and we have had a number of people who have done masters. Actually, maybe I'll just mention that in passing, is we've seen about a third, anywhere up to 30% to 40% of our candidates every year apply who've already done a master's degree of some kind. So we have people who are more experienced, both in terms of professional, but also educational and academic background. And we've had people with MBAs, I even had people with PhDs come into the program. Some wonderful candidates with PhDs in anthropology who've done the program and who've gone on to wonderful careers afterwards. So thank you for the question, Jose.
Great, Kevin. So for everyone that has just joined the conversation, just sort of a recap, we are talking with Dr. Kevin Tallec Marston from the FIFA Master. It's part of the Meet the Programs series, presenting some of the programs that will be at the upcoming iWorkinSport Education Virtual Expo. That will be in almost 2 weeks, from the 10th to the 12th of November. And Kevin, Well, keep sending your questions. You're making this very interesting. Your questions are much better than mine, so keep them coming. But Kevin, we talked about many things that will let someone in the course, so what you require, how they can get in. But when they apply, what are the things that actually hold maybe an applicant back, or might disqualify them from being accepted?
Sure. Some of the drawbacks or obstacles in the application process. Obviously, one of them, we mentioned the English certification before, but you have to be of proficient level in English to follow the program. That's an absolute requirement. And we do see sometimes people who apply to the course with an insufficient level of written English or oral English or both. And that really, apart from the fact that maybe they have an outstanding profile on many other aspects, whether it's academics or their sporting involvement, their professional background, they will not be able to really make the most of the program or contribute to the class discussions, to the class environment. So we're very strict in terms of the English level. That's key. However, I would say to anyone who doesn't currently have maybe proficient English, then we have many examples of people who applied to the course a first time, and then went, we even interviewed. We interviewed a number of candidates and told them, look, we want to interview you because we think you're a very good candidate, but we have some doubts about your English abilities at this point, and they were ultimately not accepted that year, but went on to perfect their English, to get do the TOEFL certificate or an English course, or to go live and work in an English speaking environment for a while, come back, and they applied and they would come onto the program. So I think that's, but the English is key. Perhaps the second aspect is, I think it's important that all candidates who come to the program have some sort of international experience, because our program is an international master. The focus is really internationally, the discussions are international, the classroom environment is international, the faculty is international, the sporting organizations, and probably most significantly, the careers afterwards are international. So anyone who comes to the program without any sort of exposure to international sport or the international world is going to struggle to be able to connect things while they're on the program. And that's it's not something that you can necessarily measure in your application and say, yes, I check off the international box, but you have to demonstrate that through your studies. Have you studied abroad? Have you gone and worked in an international environment? Or even if you're living in your country and you don't have a chance to go outside of your country, what kind of international involvement do you have in your own country? Do you demonstrate that you learned other languages? Are you working with organizations? So I think the international element is important. The academics also can be a stumbling block. We really insist on on a high level of academic pedigree for all the candidates. So you gotta pass your exams when you're at university. You got to do well, and
right.
And maybe the last little detail is maybe seems obvious, but you've got to have finished your degree before you apply. So sometimes we have some wonderful candidates again who are going to graduate in February, March, April, May of a year, but they want to apply and the deadline is in January. If you're not done with your course by January, you've got to wait a year.
Okay, right. Thank you for clarifying that, Kevin. I think it has been super informative. If if you're liking it, don't forget to show your appreciation. I would love it. Let's show Kevin our love as well. Kevin, now one of the coolest things about the FIFA Master, and I have to tell you that was probably the main thing that drew my attention when I applied many years ago, was the fact that it took place in 3 different countries. However, that also poses a big challenge for everyone sort of involved, and especially if you need to look for accommodation in different countries. You're in England, and then you have to find accommodation in Italy and then in Switzerland. Being there, how does that work? Does the course provide any support for accommodation?
Absolutely, it is a challenge moving 3 times, as we said. Fortunately, we are able to count on some wonderful support from our administrative staff, whether it's the administrative staff here at CIES or at the partner universities. And what that means, concretely speaking, is that there's a campus, a university campus in Leicester, where students can stay at the student residences for graduates and graduate students and undergraduate students. So there are rooms that are set aside. Now, you're not obligated to take those rooms. Generally, we encourage it because it's the best possible accommodation option for living in Leicester, and it's close to the school. When you're in Milan is a much bigger city, and there isn't the same university campus style, if you will, that you have in a UK environment, UK university. So you don't have the same number of student residences that exist. There are some residences, and so what we do in that sense, our colleagues at Bocconi are very helpful in providing a list of accommodation that is both private and student-based. And that list includes even private apartments. The Airbnb option has become more and more common over the past few years, where people will rent, and then those apartments are actually almost passed on year to year. So students benefit from the experience of the previous years. And the same thing in Neuchâtel. There's a small campus with some university rooms, but there are also private residences or rooms for rent that you can hire. And all of that is facilitated by our staff, which we know is essential, because during the year, you can't be spending too much time trying to find a place to live.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Just so you know, so Joshua, Rishon, Himanshu, Rostor, all have questions about jobs and how we support, or how the FIFA Master supports the students with jobs. We're going to get there. Don't go anywhere. Wait just a little longer. We're going to get to that for sure. Kevin will not go anywhere before he answers your questions on job placement. But another important thing that I would like to cover before we go to that, you mentioned the cost of the course, the tuition fee, which is 25,000 Swiss francs, right? Which almost $25,000, I would say, maybe 27 at the moment or something like that. But what about then the cost of living? Now you're having to change from country to country. What someone would be expected to spend on that?
Sure. Generally, we recommend that about a similar amount of money is necessary for the cost of living for the whole year. That's a pretty large range. Obviously, if you have 20 to 25,000 Swiss francs, we estimate you can live on the course. I mean, some people live with less money during the year if you just eat pasta and you buy cheap coffee. But you don't need necessarily let's say it's a range that we give is around 20 to 25,000 in order to live fairly comfortably over the course of those 10 months. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, I did with less than that. Didn't get 18 at the time, but maybe with inflation it would be maybe around 20 now. So Kevin, let's then talk about sort of job placement. So there's so many people asking that. So I'm just gonna show you some of the questions here. So Joshua Banks, oh no, this is he's actually, I pressed the wrong button, but maybe you want to talk about that as well. I think he's talking about different rankings.
Sure. Perhaps the most well-recognized ranking in the sports management sector is the one that's produced by Sport Business International, which is a trade publication for the sports business sector, let's say. They have been producing rankings since 2012 that cover courses all across the world, European ones, Asian ones, lots of obviously North American courses. There are many in the ranking, and that they produce every year. Normally it's in the spring, about the month of May or June. They produce a quite extensive report. This year it was with the COVID, it was only released in September. But if you go on the internet and you just type Sport Business International rankings, you'll come up with the rankings for the sports management sector. And they also cover even e-learning courses and a number of programs from around the world. So it's a very useful resource for interested applicants.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. So we're gonna I'm gonna show you a few questions about jobs, and then we select how we answer them. So Ross Dror, I think, is from Israel. Hi, Kevin. As someone coming from the fields of creative marketing and advertising, what kind of job opportunities can I expect after completing the FIFA Master program? Could I get accepted? So this is with a particular background in creative marketing and advertising. Joshua, what are the jobs people tend to go into after the course? So you can talk about that as well.
Yeah.
Also, does CIES help students to get internships and jobs in the sport industry? Asks Rishon. And then Himanshu just goes at job opportunities after the course. Those are a few questions talking about that. So how do you want to go? You want to go sort of in general? You want to talk about internships? You're going to talk about starts with the question from Ross Rostor, asking about the creative marketing advertising background.
Well, maybe let's go general to specific. I don't know, maybe that's my academic side to go general to specific, but obviously that's a key question for anyone who's taking, you know, a year off or a little more than that to come onto an academic, right, to a course. You know, what can I expect afterwards? What are the career options? I think what is most interesting in our program is over the last 20 years, we've seen the diversity of career options for people in all different sectors. You know, we have, let's say, I think we're up to about 560 plus alumni over 20 years. So we've got, you know, 560 people who've come through the program, and probably around, I think it's over 500 work still today in various sectors of sport. Now that covers everything from international sports organizations, where we have quite a lot. We probably have about 20% of our alumni who work in the international sporting federation world. So those are all the organizations largely based in Switzerland, but not always. Some of them are. As far as Malaysia, we've seen the International Badminton Federation represented today, but there are federations in the Middle East, federations based in other parts of Europe, etc. So about 20%, I would say, work in the international sports sector. Probably 10 to 15% will work at the national level on national sporting organizations, whether that is a national federation, National Olympic Committee, or a Ministry of Sport, that sort of thing. We also have a number of people who will work in sports clubs and teams, and that's, you know, on the professional level, but also on the amateur level, and that represents, I would say, a smaller percentage. We have probably less, maybe 5 to 10% work in that sector. And then maybe this links in some sense to, I can't remember who was this question about the creative agency and the marketing, but
Ross Drawer.
Ross, there we go, Ross. We do have quite a few people who work in the agency consulting media events world, and I would say that's probably one of the most common sectors that people work in. And so from someone like yourself who has advertising and creative marketing background, there are all sorts of agencies, whether they are advertising agencies, sporting goods companies. We've had people work at Nike, Adidas, Puma. We have people working in agencies like Infront, CAA. We've had all sorts of rights holding, rights buying agencies like Team Marketing. People who work in the consulting sector, a lot of consulting companies. We have quite a number of alumni who've gone to work for consulting groups such as Burson Cohn Wolf, which is one of the bigger consulting groups globally. They have a specialist sports office that's based in Switzerland, and we have a number of alumni who worked and even worked all the way up to become directors in those organizations. So the sports consulting sector is important.
And you have alumni who own agencies, creative agencies.
And who created their own agencies. We have some very something we haven't mentioned is the entrepreneurial side of things. And we have alumni who've started some of the most important sport marketing agencies in South America and in Asia. Just to name, two regions around in China and Brazil, two of the most significant sport marketing companies in those two markets were started by alumni from early editions of this program. And so there are opportunities there. Other alumni have gone to work with them or start their own industries, but the entrepreneurship side is an important one. There are more and more students who come into the program and say, well, I actually already have a business plan. And so it's something they work on, and eventually sometimes even work with fellow students in the class, preparing that during the year. And then after graduation, they go on and launch an incredible project. The other sector we haven't mentioned is just the sports law. We do have a number of lawyers who come into the program. It's, I would say, a small group every year. It's not, this year we have actually 5 lawyers out of 25. So it's a larger percentage this year, but they go on to work in sports law firms. And we know that sports law is an absolutely essential part of the industry today.
Yeah.
I hope that kind of gives a general perspective. Maybe
one thing, Kevin, before you go to the internships and to the help that the FIFA Master give to people to find jobs, also it's interesting to mention that at the Education Virtual Expo, people will have the chance to speak with some alumni of the course that will be there as well. So you may want to go and talk more the administrative matters with CIES staff, the FIFA Master staff, but also there will be people there that can share about their experience as students and their life at work after the Masters as well. But just a reminder. But we can continue to the support that the FIFA Master gives to people wanting to find a job or internships.
Well,
and if internship is required.
Sure, I'll pick up on your last point, Joao, just to transition. The relevance of speaking with alumni is paramount for us on the course side. All of us who are on the faculty or who are involved in the selection process. It's one of the things that we encourage all candidates to speak to alumni, because we want people to make a decision on their end. This is the course I want to apply for, and that's very important to us. So you'll have a chance at the virtual fair to speak with a number of alumni, and anyone who's interested in the FIFA Master, please reach out to our staff at CIES or at the universities and just request and say, look, this is where I come from. This is my background. Could you put me in touch with some alumni that have similar profiles to me? Or if you're looking to meet someone who's different, then do that. We're always very open to connect people, and that's one of the strongest ways to build our candidate pool for the future, is to have well-qualified, well-informed candidates. So that's very important. Maybe to shift into the question of internship support, etc. We have, let's say, I would just draw a distinction. There's some programs who have a specific formal internship program. That's part of their course. You have to do it in order to graduate. You even may have to write an internship report about that is then marked, and it's part of the overall evaluation of the program. We have a different perspective on internships, in the sense that we don't formally include an internship part as up until graduation. What we do encourage are a number of different partnerships, both formal and informal, which I'll talk about in a moment, with all sorts of sports organizations after graduation, at which point candidates will go on, graduates will go on to work there. The distinction, I make that because I think it's important that an unpaid internship, when you're a student, is fine. But here at the FIFA Master, I think we have perhaps a more ambitious view on things, and we have a more ambitious view of our graduates. And I think that we essentially try to create a relationship with the sports industry, whether it's formal. So the example I can give with that is with FIFA, who supports the course immensely. And every year for the last number of years, they have taken on about 5 to 6 students on a 1 year. I mean, it's called an internship, but it is it's essentially a 1-year contract. So it's a 1-year contract with no obligation to renew. I mean, many people who do that for a year will then stay in the organization, move to another department, work on an event, stay in FIFA. But a number of people will go spend a year working in one of the departments in FIFA, get experience there, and they'll move and go somewhere else. But it's a full-time position. It's a short-term contract, but it's not an unpaid student internship. As I think we have, again, I tried to say an ambitious view is that we don't want to undersell our, if I can use those kind of terms, undersell our students. Our students are smart, experienced people, and they come onto the market, and they're looking for, for professional work and to be integrated directly into the sports industry. So we've got formal agreements on that side. And then we do a lot of informal, where obviously our alumni network is extremely important in this. Is they are continuously providing, I would say on a weekly basis, opportunities that they see all around the world. As I said, we have 560 alumni working in, 500 plus alumni working in sport all across the world, all the continents, and jobs will come in on our, internal platforms that are then, obviously open jobs, but they're, we inform our current students and alumni. They're able then to have access to a very privileged information about the industry and where jobs open here and there. And a number of organizations commit, let's say, informally to take people on regularly every year. We have people going to the same organizations, whether it's the consulting companies, whether it's agencies. We mentioned Infront, who have hired regularly. We mentioned, Manchester City for a while had a program with us, and I know they work with other courses as well. So there are informal and formal, but I think the key distinction to make is maybe with respect to other programs is our internship is not a requirement for graduation. So it's something we treat kind of separately as part of a larger career services and personal development platform.
Great. Yeah, definitely. There's certainly support there. I have to say that's one of the things that's the FIFA Master does to support their students is that they bring them to the iWorkinSport
Absolutely.
job fair. Actually, Kevin, if you don't mind, we're going towards the end here. So I will try to get another one or two questions from you. Probably won't be able to cover them all, but as we said in the beginning, this wasn't meant to be exhaustive. I mean, there is a chance for you to go to the Education Virtual Expo, talk to many of the CIES and FIFA Master staff there, plus alumni. But I just want to share the sort of the relationship that the iWorkinSport has with the FIFA Master. Of course, I'm an alumnus of the course, but actually, I told this before that the idea also came from there. And Kevin is probably the mastermind of the concept of iWorkinSport. We had this discussion very early on. I was working with Mike Laughlin at SportCal at the time when you came with the embryo of that idea. The company didn't take it at the time. We tried to pass to someone else. They tried something different, didn't really work. And then finally, when I was consulting for the FIFA Master, and then helping them doing the job that I do. Full disclosure here, as an alumnus of the course, I've been involved with the Alumni Association and consult for them as well, partly on this career development thing. So the way I ended up creating iWorkinSport was with that. There was that idea that sort of you put in my head, and then I started to contact recruiters with Alessandro Pelliciotta. And then suddenly, after I had the experience of organizing events for the FIFA Master alumni and felt I had my consultancy and I was an entrepreneur, I decided that's okay, maybe I could do it. And the great idea from the FIFA Master is that they saw we're a great course, but we have only 30 students. Yeah. Not enough to attract the best employers in the world to come and visit us. There are other great courses there as well that have sort of the same problem. And I think if we sort of worked together, we would be able to then do something like that. But it wasn't your core business. You couldn't sort of do it. I raised my hand and said, "Oh, if I do it, would you support us?" And that's how everything started. So I want to say thank you, Kevin. I said at the beginning that you are a sort of a mentor to me. That was from the time of the FIFA Master when you helped us in Leicester, but also you're an important person in the history of iWorkinSport. So I wanted to publicly thank you for that. Now, with that said, I'm going to try to cover maybe just a few more questions here. There was one from, where is it? Sorry. it just moved. Well, just very quickly, Himanshu Arora is asking about what type of experience is required, if voluntary work is also considered work experience to apply to the master. He has some 10 years blogging about Real Madrid, apparently. Does that count when he applies?
Sure. No, the question on volunteer experience is obviously key for some candidates who work in another industry. For example, we do have every year a number of people who apply who are working in other industries, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's engineering, whether it's even business, but completely outside, or finance, and people who are still very, very closely involved in sport, and they may be a volunteer president for their local sport club, and they spend all their free time doing sport. So they may come to the master with very little, let's say, practical professional experience in sport and worked in the industry, but all of their volunteer time has been dedicated to organizing, the sport events, or coaching at a local event, or running their local marathon, or programs and projects like that. And all of that is very valuable experience, and we recognize that for sure.
It is valid. Now, there is here an interesting one. Have you had students participate in the program while having their spouse and traveling with them?
Absolutely.
It's going to be the last one, because we just passed the hour mark.
Sure. Absolutely. We've had a number of students come since in the last 20 years, even students who have come with their children. We had some kids come with babies for a certain part of the course. So that is certainly possible. And all you have to do is just kind of let our staff know that when you do come on the program, you'd be looking for different types of accommodation, etc. So that is absolutely possible.
Great. Jesus MV asks if there's financial help for students. There is, Jesus. Kevin talked extensively about that, so I suggest that you watch the replay when you can, or also register and come to the events and find out more about that. We'll have to stop here. I think there is maybe another couple of questions that couldn't be answered, but
I'll ask them at the Virtual Expo. I will be there for bits and pieces of that, as will other staff members. So we'll be happy to take all of your other questions at that point.
That's great, Kevin. And so let me thank everyone that watched. Thank you so much for making this special. You do ask the best questions, so keep collaborating with us. This is wonderful. Kevin, don't go anywhere. Stay there. I just want to remind everyone that in less than 2 weeks' time, we have the iWorkinSport Education Virtual Expo. There's a link in the description for you if you want to register. It's free. I 100% recommend that you go. If you liked this, or if you would like to have more content like this, it would be super cool if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit also the bell icon to receive the notifications. This is it from me, Kevin. It was a pleasure. It's always great to have a chat with you. Would like to meet you more in person. We haven't been able to do that much this year, but I hope you stay well, and that everybody at home as well.
Thank you so much, Joao. It's a pleasure to chat. Thank you for all the questions. Look forward to seeing you all at our booth at the Virtual Expo, and look forward to seeing all of the other courses involved as well, because this is all a collegiate effort, as Joao said. I think that's an important point to make, is these types of endeavors. No individual course can do it on their own, and it's important that we learn from each other and what we're doing. So thanks very much. Great to be here.
Kevin, thank you.